Good morning, my lovely friends, and welcome back to my channel. It's Sam back here with another little video where we're going to be looking at these cute little links. Aren't these sweet? I really like these. I was just faffing around with some wire a couple of days ago and I stumbled across, I was actually doing something else. Let me have a look in my little box of, I was trying to come up with like a, like a flower type of thing, which I will do in another video. So, my little bowl of scraps here, I was faffing around and coming up with some things, but I came across this and we're going to make this lovely little link. So this makes a gorgeous bracelet, which sits really nice and flat across the wrist. You could make an absolutely spectacular necklace with this, I think, don't you? Beautiful. And you can make them with 6 or 7, make them really big Bobby Dazzler dangle earrings. You can make them with 5s, but today we're going to make 3. All right, exactly the same principle. All you need to do is alter the length of wire that you use, that's all. So we're going to make the 3 link today. All right, and then I will make this pair of earrings. So I'll just pop these ones out of the way. These ones are pretty, what we call in the Northwest a Bobby Dazzler. I think it's a very northern term, is a Bobby Dazzler. Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone else from the UK. These are the 5 version. Very cute. I like these. I shall be wearing these later when I have an appointment. But we're going to be making the little more delicate 3 version today. Aren't they gorgeous? I really like these. So I'll shift all those out of the way and we'll go through a list of materials, which, we've got in our stashes. Nothing particularly drastic. Right, so for the frame itself, the actual frame of the link, we're going to be using, again, 1mm, that's 18 gauge copper wire. Again, you can use any wire you like, but we are going to be doing some hammering. So if you choose to use a different wire, then obviously make sure that it's hammerable. Is that a word? Hammerable. So we're going to be using that. For the dangles, I'm going to be using 0.6, that's 22 gauge. I actually remembered to write it on this time. Well done, Sammy. I'll stick that out of the way because that's a big spool of wire. So 0.6. I'm going to be using these little links that I make. Now, if you want to learn how to make these, obviously for this part of the earring, I will pop a video link up here, which will show you how to make these. I'm not going to show you in this video because it will just make it way too long and you'll just get bored. So I do have a video on how to make these. So you're going to need 4 of those for your earrings. Obviously not for your bracelet. If you wanted to make a matching set, which I have, I'm using 3mm internal diameter jump rings made with 0.8mm wire. That's 20 gauge, 18 gauge, 20 gauge, yeah. And that's just for the links, like so. And then basically just a clasp of your choice. I've chosen just to use a simple shepherd's hook on this, but you can use whatever you like. Really simple. Right, so let's get going. Apart from that, you're just going to need some beads actually. So the beads I'm using for this have come from the Check Beads exclusive the turquoise May box, which I will leave a link here for that video if you wanted to subscribe to these beautiful beads. So I'm going to be showcasing those today in these cute little earrings. Okay, so let's get going. Apart from that, you're going to need your usual tools. I'm going to be using these today, and you're also going to need a simple hammer and block set. All right, so this is one of the most affordable, cheapest versions that you can get. You don't need anything hugely expensive. And I think that is it, my friends. So I will clear all this away and we'll get going and we'll make these really pretty links. Okay, so I'll see you in a few. Righty-ho, my friends. So in order to make each one of these links, you're going to need some 1mm 18 gauge copper wire. All right, so I've got 11 links on my bracelet. Let's have a look. Look how beautiful that looks. It's almost like bubbles, isn't it? Like a bubbly type of thing, and it's got some lovely articulation in it. I really like this. Very beautiful on the wrist, I think. but the same links can be used to make the earrings too. All right, so I will go through the earrings, and then obviously, you know, you'll know how to link the bracelet together. It's just got two little 3mm jump rings, but we'll go through that later. All right, so I think I might pop that back on because I like it. Just pop that back on my wrist. Lovely. Okay, so grab yourself a ruler, which I have in my drawer here. Let's just get that out. You're going to need, whoops, obviously my drawer is right near my tripod because I keep banging it, never mind. So you're going to need some 1mm wire, 18 gauge. Give it a little bit of a stretch out, straighten it out, and you're going to need approximately 12 centimeters, about nearly 5 inches, about, I don't know, what's that, 4 3/4 inches, give or take, for each one of these little links. Now the measurements that I give you today are obviously the measurements for the size of tools that I've got, which I will try and give you an approximation of. So, you know, you can adapt this to suit your tools, and we'll go through that in a second. All right, so I'll just take 2 lengths off, like so, get rid of that and get rid of that. Right, so let's just move things out of the way so that we can focus on what we're doing. So each one, actually, let me just measure these links and let me just show you how wide and how long these links are. So you're looking at approximately 1.5 centimeters per link, sort of widthways, and lengthways approximately 2 centimeters. All right, so for you guys that use inches, let's have a look. Half, gosh, I can't even work that out in inches anymore. Anyway, that's what it is. Let's have a look. It's too early in the morning for me. 3/4 inch widthwise and just over 1/2 inch widthwise. Hope that helps. So let's have a look. Right, so my tools are this rather long, thin, round nose plier. Now I've approximated that the base of this that I use is around about 4 millimeters in diameter. So when I bring it down here, the circle that the hoop that I made is approximately 4. So I mean, 4 or 5. You can when you know what you're doing with these links, you can work it out for yourself. So we take our wire around here. So what's that? About 1/4 of the way down, like so, right down at the base of my plier, like so. And then I bend the wire over the top, rotate it around my plier, like so, so that we have a little bit of an angle. Don't make it flat. Okay, like so. Come in again with the base, and you want to be leaving a couple of millimeters in between. Can you see that? So don't butt it right up. You want to leave a couple of millimeters like so. And again, bend the wire over the top, rotate your plier, bend again over the top, and again leave a little bit of an angle in it, like so. And for the final one, and this is for the 3 version, obviously, if you wanted to make the 5 like this one, which is very pretty, you just essentially lengthen the length of your wire and do what I'm doing here, but make it 5 or 7, whatever, or 4, whatever you like. Okay, so the final one, again, bend over the top, like so. Bend it around, like so. So you have something that looks a little bit like this. So I'm just going to measure these. Yeah, they're about 5 millimeters. So if you can use a, you know, like a measuring gauge, a digital gauge, you know, that's about 5 millimeters, 4.5, 5 millimeters. Okay, so this is what we have. So the next thing we need to do is to bring it in our block. Now I choose to do it this way before I make the other loops, just because I feel like it makes more sense to me. But, you know, these are just ideas for you. So, you know, obviously you go ahead and do what you like. Now then, when we're hammering, we don't want to be hammering the joints here where the wires cross. We want to try and avoid hammering those. And the reason for that is it just sort of, it flattens the copper wire up too much and it becomes a bit more easy to snap, that kind of thing. So this part of the hammering here, avoid these joints, okay? And it just makes things a little bit more stable. So I'm going to hammer, and what I tend to do is give it a very light tap in between these parts here, and then that just flattens them out a little bit, because as you can see, at the moment there's sort of like a bend to them. So here we go. You see what I did there? So I just lightly tapped, okay, and holding them here. We're just lightly tapping them, but we're avoiding the crossovers, okay? So as I'm tapping, as I'm doing a bit of hammering there, I place a little bit more emphasis on the bottom of the hoop. So as you can see, the loop has a bit of sort of flattening and texture towards the bottom of it. All right, so that's how I like to do it. Dog hair, thank you, Glory. Gosh, doesn't matter how clean I am in my house, there is always a dog hair somewhere. So that's the first part of it done. Now we're going to be wanting to make these little second loops at the top. These loops here. Now I choose to use my 6-step bell making plier for that, just because they're a little bit more precise and I know the measurements of everything. Again, you can use your round nose if you want to sort of mark them, you know, with a Sharpie or whatever, that's fine. So I'm using the second step on my bell making plier, which is 3 millimeters. And I know that if I measure just under 1.5 centimeters of wire, that is the correct length for me to make my cut. So I'm just going to see where the wires join, where they meet. I'm going to want about just under 1.5 centimeters to cut, which I do there, and then I turn over to the other side and measure the same again. This is, you know, makes it a little bit more precise, and which means it's a little bit more neat. And again, about 1.5 centimeters. All right, so you've got something that looks like this. So the next thing I do is come in with my second step, and we want to turn these loops inwards, not outwards, inwards. So I take the second step of my plier, put the wire right at the end of it so that I can't feel it, and then holding this carefully, rotate so that loop sits on top like so. All right, the nature of this means that you will have one of these hoops coming on sort of the top side and one appearing underneath, which I quite like. So turn it over and do the same thing. Gives it some sort of, you know, sort of organic structure, if that makes sense. I know organic and structure are a bit sort of dichotomous, aren't they? But you know what I mean. So as you can see here, this one comes over the top and this one comes over the bottom. And then just use our fingers, which are brilliant tools. If you need to just bring those in slightly, then you can do. Now you can choose to not hammer these. I choose to hammer them just very, very, very slightly. So bring in my block. like so. And again, just hammer the outside of the loops. So as you can see, we've got a little bit of flattening there, but not too much. If you find, like wire does, it moves around a little bit when you've hammered it, it's absolutely fine. Just come in with your tools, just give things a little tweak. A little tweak, there we go. How's that? So there's our first link. All right, so I'll make a quick one. I won't sort of talk you through it. I'll just sort of briefly demonstrate. So I come in with my plier, quarter of the way down, rotate like so. So there's a bit of an angle. A couple of millimeters away, do the same thing, like so. Like so, and then back in, across, rotate the plier. Remember to sit it back down at the bottom because you don't want your hoops to be different sizes. Okay, so that's our little unit made. Come in with my hammer. Give it a bit of a hammer into place. If we're happy with that, just measure it up against the last one that you made, and that's fine. Measure 1.5 centimeters, just under. Give it a snip. And give it a snip. Now the reason why I don't unfurl one of these and do it exact is because I find it slightly easier to manipulate wire when there's a little bit more to grab onto. So you can make one and then unfurl it and work out the exact measurements of your wire if you prefer, but you know, not for me. Right, so come in with my plier, second step, roll it inwards, and then the other side. Again, use your fingers if you need to. Roll it inwards. That's fine. Again, just keep measuring the shape against the last one that you made, and hopefully you'll make them pretty consistently. And then just give it a little bit of a bash. Just a slight touch of a hammer, and then close things back up again, like so. There we go. So you make a lot, you know, lots of these. If you want to make a bracelet like this one, you would, you know, I've made 11 of these, and then literally just attach them like so with a couple of 3mm 0.8 jump rings. So I put one through each one of these. Let's have a look. Each one of these little holes, these little loops, and then attach it to the singular loop there, as you can see here. Okay, so that's the bracelet made. If you want to make the earrings, let's go for have a look at the earrings. Right, so this is when we come in with our 0.8 wire, no, sorry, 0.6 wire, the 22 gauge. I'm going to be making these little wrapped dangles. Pretty, I think. So let's have a look at these beads. Like I said, these are from the Check Beads exclusive box. So I'm going to need 2. You can use whatever you like, actually. I think it would be beautiful with pearls, perhaps, that kind of thing. Let's have a look. So I'm going to need 2 of those, and I'm going to need 3 of these little sort of pyramid-y type beads. They're really pretty. So just choose, you know, just where's my golden spoon? I did have one subscriber or one lady who visited my channel say that she really wanted one of these wooden spoons. because I haven't got my little triangular bead trays yet, so I use a little golden spoon. Can't remember where I got these actually. Could have been that very large shop with blue and yellow, but I can't remember. Although it could have been off Amazon, to be fair. If I can find out, I will put a link in the description of my cute little golden spoon. There you go. Can you see me in the reflection? That's kind of fun, isn't it? Anyway, I digress. So let's have a look at these. So, you know, come in with your beads and just have a bit of a play around, I think, and, you know, have a think about where you'd like your beads to be placed. So I shall make another pair of these for a pal of mine. Looks like a face, does that? Are you one of those people that sees faces in things? I always see faces in things. It's really strange. Right, got one out too many there. So I think we'll do that. Right, so come in with your 0.6. You don't need a huge amount, but you just need a little, you know, a decent amount so you can wrap a little bit of an organic, not very neat, you know, sort of a scrappy wrap, I think, which is what I like. So I'm going to say I use, I don't know, about maybe 8 or 9 centimeters. What's that? 3 to 3.5 inches, perhaps, something like that. Perhaps a little bit too much, but I do like to have something to grab onto wire-wise. And I find that if I use wire that's too short, I struggle to wrap it, don't you? So something along those kind of lines. It doesn't have to be exact. So all I've done at the end, on the end where it's flush cut, just take my plier right at the very tip, bend it over to make a tiny little loop at the bottom. You can make your own head pins if you want. You can make little spirals. You can do whatever you like with these. They're just literally your choice of head pin, essentially. So I like the little loop at the bottom, like so. Like so. And then let's do this last one, like so. Don't know if you can hear the beautiful blackbirds singing in my garden, and other people's gardens actually. I've been very, very vocal recently. There you go, can you hear them? They're beautiful. I love blackbird song. So pop our little beads on, like so. That's one. And then, like I say, I think these would look beautiful, perhaps even with crystal, you know, crystal briolette dangles, whatever you like. It's just this, I'm using the beads from the Check Beads exclusive May box, because I love turquoise, and I think turquoise and copper go together really well, don't they? So what we do, let's pop these out of the way for now. Right, so take your plier like so and make a little bend like so, and then come in with the end of your round nose or whatever, just so long as you make this loop large enough to fit around the frame. Bend, turn. So we're making a wire wrap loop essentially, like so. So I like to do things, you know, in like a production line sort of situation. So bend, come in and make a wire wrap loop like so. I'm having a very relaxed day today, so if my manic voice in previous episodes, I'm actually quite relaxed today, so if you can tell that in my voice, I'm absolutely fine. I do have some lovely people who ask me how I am, and I'm absolutely fine. Although my daughter's GCSEs start tomorrow, so it's all about the exams. There we go, at the moment in this house, so I'm trying to keep things very much on the down low, as they say, as sort of relaxed. So I'm doing this week to take my mind off the freneticism of the exam period. Anyway, so take your frame. Now you'll find that the frame will have, if you want it to have, I do, a little bit of a curve to it. So it curves round this way a little bit. So I call that the front side, the bit where you hammered. Okay, so take the first bead section, thread it on, and very, very gently pop that onto your frame like so. Now for this, I come in either with my Tronex needle nose, and they're 521. I do get asked about these an awful lot. Or I will use my extremely elderly, I know how they feel, needle nose from, these are tweezer nose from Xuron. I'm sure you guys have seen these multiple times, so I'll use either of those. These are my go-to because they're my favourite pliers. Hold like so, and then just scrappily wind and wind until you're happy, which I am there. So I'll just snip that there, put that into my scraps, and then neaten that off. So that's the first dangle done. Let's do the second one. So that goes onto the middle like so. Gently pop it on, and again come in and just wrap, you know, arbitrarily, however you feel like. There we go. Just give that a bit of a squish. And then the last one on. So let me just do this and I'll show you the other version. Okay, wrap like so, then back up like so. Now obviously there is a little bit of waste there, but like I say, I like to have a slight bit more to hold on to when I'm doing that kind of wrapping. Just makes life a little bit easier. Okay, I'm doing this through the camera, so bear with me. Just tidy that up as best you can, which I'm not doing a good job of really because I can't see what I'm doing through the camera. So there we have our little dangles on our unit. All right, so there's various ways that you can suspend these from an earring. You can use a little bit of chain that you've made, or a little bit of silver chain if you want. There's nothing wrong with mixing metals, is there? I quite like a mixed metal. But I have used these little guys, and like I said earlier on in the video, I have linked down below, up here, I will have linked at the video where I made these, so you can see how to make these if you so desire. There we go. Let's pop that one on there. Give it a tighten like thus, and then we want to put this one on also. I'm just going to take that off there. So pop that one on the other side like so, like so. So everybody is happy. And then I think is what size is that jump ring? Doesn't really matter, to be fair. I think that's a 5mm jump ring, but you know, just use whatever you fancy. A larger one would look pretty good too. And then just pop that through both of the hoops like so, and just come in and close that jump ring up. There we are, like so. The only thing you need to do now is I'm just going to rob an ear wire from this other big Bobby Dazzler pair and just pop an ear wire on. So, you know, make your own. You can do all sorts of different ear wires. Pop that on, and there we have it, my friends. How beautiful is that? A gorgeous little dangle earring, you know, beautiful. I really like these. So you can use either that, or, you know, you can use all sorts of different beads if you want, or you can do as I've done with the 5 here and just have it beadless, which I think looks very elegant as well, don't you? They're beautiful, aren't they? I really like these. So there's the earrings. I'll just pop those out of the way. So these links here, obviously, are exactly the same. Just connect them with the 3mm jump rings through the small holes and then into the larger one all the way along. So for this one, I have used, like I say, I think there's 11 links in there. You can use these for all sorts of things. Even it would be beautiful for the basis, the front part of a bib necklace, wouldn't it? And then a chain here if you wanted to do that. I just think these are really pretty. Okay, have fun making all of these beautiful earrings as well. Perfect for those of us who like a little bit of dangle. I just think they're really elegant. Little bit of a chandelier for the summertime. What do you think? Have fun, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.